because every day I get up and all my goal for that day is to try to have a positive impact on at least one person's life.
It's, I think one of the most important things is to be able to know ourselves well, so that we know kind of what our capacity for the roller coaster is. Because I think even when there's bad stuff happening, if you know that it's predictable, it's a lot easier to plan for.
The wheels are coming off that cart, and I am glad that they are, because I think it's time that we acknowledge our humanity.
But when things are really hard, if you can really connect with someone who you know loves you and who won't judge you, that is gold.
It's it allows evolution. It's like, now I know that, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to use this to show up better next time?
But being able to slow down and look at the thoughts and see what's true and what's not, that can really help build that inner stability. Welcome to I'll Go First, a podcast where real talk meets real life, and we help you to live more authentically and thrive mentally. I'm Matthew Rippey Young, a clinical psychologist in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
And I'm Nancy Ceresia, a life and mindset coach, also in Ottawa. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, Nancy.
Howdy.
You've had a busy couple of weeks or a busy time lately, huh?
It has been busy. It has been good. It has been unexpected. There's been a lot going on. Yeah.
How's that going? Like the look on your face.
You're setting me up.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Honestly, it's the perfect segue into what we want to talk to you guys about today and what we want to bring forward, which is, navigating the good, the bad, the ugly, or
the ups, the downs, and the sometimes surprise sideways.
Yeah. So life, I don't think anybody would disagree with the statement that life is like a little topsy-turvy right now in so many ways.
All over the place.
It's weird.
Like, it's just, there's like this kind of outer level, I feel like, of instability and unpredictability. Like, that alone would be kind of difficult, but then, like, we're humans. And so, like, we also have all of our own garbage that we're trying to manage as well.
There is a lot.
And so, like, I think, it can be hard to manage all the things when the instability can be coming from both the outside and the inside.
Yeah, and I'm definitely feeling that.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
So, like, maybe the good stuff to, like, ease our way in.
Sure.
Because, you had a surprise this week.
I did.
A good surprise.
I had a good surprise. I am nominated for a Faces Magazine Award for Life Coach of the Year.
Yay!
Which is insane. It's such a surprise, and
well, because you don't even know who nominated you, do you?
No, you don't know. And all I know is, for me, what this means is that I impacted somebody enough that they felt that was something that they wanted to do. So I am so incredibly grateful, because every day I get up and all my goal for that day is to try to have a positive impact on at least one person's life. And so for me, having that nomination just really kind of has reinforced that I did it at least one time.
What are you doing tomorrow? No, it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, like, when does voting close, or how can people vote for you?
Yeah, so here is the uncomfortable part for me, and then we'll talk about this. So going along with our theme, it's a good thing. Like, I think arguably it's great, like the exposure is great. If my goal, which it is my goal, to try to help as many people as possible live more authentic lives and just feel good about themselves in their life, regardless of what's going on, then for me to reach the most people possible, I kind of have to be seen.
Yeah,
And
I love the look on your face as you said, I have to be seen.
as I'm on a podcast, which I enjoy. I do. I was just saying, like, I really like being in front of the camera. But I think when you're saying it, like, hey, vote for me, it's uncomfortable, but please do it.
Yes, please.
We'll link the link in the show notes. You can go to Faces Magazine, I believe. I don't
It's
even
an
know
Ottawa-based magazine.
It is an Ottawa-based magazine. They have these awards every year, and it's tallied up by the number of votes. So, yeah,
Team Nancy.
yeah. So, yeah, and it's not just a one and done. They want to really make you go out there and hustle the votes. So I am putting on my politician hat because we aren't exhausted in Ontario by that already.
Right.
But this is a fun thing you can vote for. So yeah, if you go to the website, you can vote every day. The more often you vote, obviously, the better. I'll leave that up to you guys, but we'll link. And it is definitely bringing me face to face with, even though there's, good stuff that comes up and it's surprising, sometimes how you feel about it and the stuff it kind of brings up really catches you by surprise.
Yes, it touches into all that garbage.
Yes.
That, is also part of life, I think.
Yeah.
It's, I think one of the most important things is to be able to know ourselves well.
Yeah.
So that we know kind of what our capacity for the roller coaster is. Because I think even when there's bad stuff happening, if you know that it's predictable, it's a lot easier to plan for.
Oh my God, yeah.
Whereas like the ups and downs, like, you're getting like emotional whiplash all the time,
Oh, yeah.
which, some people find easier to handle than others.
Yeah.
And so really like knowing what your capacity is, like I think unfortunately I have a pretty great capacity for chaos.
I do
If you
too.
look back at the like I think about the number of places I've lived, like in my current place now, I think I've been there not quite 3 years, and that might be the longest I've ever lived at a single address
No way.
in my adult life.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it tracks because I know where you
well,
live.
right.
But
I have a friend who says like you keep address book companies in business.
yeah,
Not that people write letters anymore, but
they should.
yeah,
Just saying.
it's fun.
We should
Yeah.
do that. I like
I
getting
used to.
mail. I do that on the real estate side of things. I do send a little note every once in a while because I kind of think it's nice. Like we definitely didn't do Christmas cards this year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the volatility piece that, maybe that's what I said. You didn't say volatility. I said volatility. I agree. I've unfortunately, have been in situations where throughout my life, unpredictability and volatility have been the constant,
Yeah.
have been the comfort. Just because something's comforting doesn't mean it's good for you.
No, right, like that is the predictability business. Like even if
Yeah.
it's a dance you don't like, you know the steps and there's
Yeah.
some kind of
The
comfort in that.
familiarity, right?
It really, yeah, but oftentimes we can end up hanging out in a zone that's not so good and
No.
isn't building that inner stability. Because that's really the only thing that we can do is we can try to build the inner stability to cope with all the exterior instability.
Yeah, I think that's where my wheelhouse is when I'm helping people, because that's what helped me. Like I'm walking the walk, talking the talk, still doing it.
Well,
This
I mean,
week
it
has
doesn't,
been
yeah.
has been one of those weeks where I'm like, oh, here we go. But
But I mean, it also really never ends.
no, it doesn't.
Right? Like this kind of work, like it is about, I think, trying to, develop some ways of living.
Yeah.
Because there's
Strategies.
always going to be challenges. Like I know in therapy, sometimes people will ask, like, when do I get to stop coping? And I'm always like, never.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? You're
I
just
saw
like,
this couple
just
one
have a
time.
break.
And they were in their 70s and they'd been together since their 20s. And they came in for marital therapy and they're like, I thought by the time we got to 70, we could stop trying. And I was like, that's why you're here, dude? Like,
Stop trying.
yeah.
That's, I get it. Because it sounds tiring.
Well, it would be nice to feel like you can go on autopilot in some ways, but
The thing is, those people came into your office because they were on autopilot,
well, exactly.
right?
Like, kind of after we had that aha moment, I don't think I only saw them twice more, and they were much happier. And like,
That's good.
yeah. So, but I mean, it's like this is lifelong stuff.
It
Really
is. It
trying to
is.
manage because there's always challenges that are coming. There's always something around the corner. Some seasons are less than others. I mean, I have enjoyed times when it's, I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm moving. It's like I'm on cruise control, but I'm not on the like self-driving car, right? Like I still have to steer, I change lanes, but
To be honest, I don't ever want to be the self-driving car.
no,
No, I want to have that awareness all the
I want
time.
to be able to knit while I'm driving.
Oh, see, that would be
Like that
good.
would be great
That'd be
because I
good.
like driving.
Yeah.
I need to go places, but I'd love to nitpick. I mean, can you imagine a car accident?
Oh my
Like right
gosh.
in the eye.
Well,
Not good.
one of the things, so now we're actually talking about self-driving cars, and it's not a metaphor, but when I go places, I am obsessed with houses.
No? Yes.
Brutal. When I'm out in Nova Scotia, I drive off the road so many times, almost drive off the road. I forgot to preface, almost drive off the road.
Let's hope.
Because they're so pretty, the
Yeah.
houses, and oh my God. Anyway, so yes, I'm a big fan. I would be a big fan in that circumstance. I
There
can
you
take
go.
all my little pictures. But as far as self-driving and being on autopilot in your life, I think you get to a point where you realize it hasn't been working. And I personally, and I've talked about this on the pod before, that I did all the steps, and you did
Yeah.
too, right? Like you do the steps. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you buy a house, you have a kid, like all those things. And then I woke up, and because I think at that time especially, you're told that those are the things that make a happy life.
Yes.
But a happy life is different than a happy person in that life.
Well, right, again, it goes back to knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And knowing what it is that, knowing what your capacities are, knowing what your gifts are, knowing what it is that, you have the capacity to learn, but also knowing what it is that you want.
Oh yeah.
And that there isn't a recipe for
No.
this is what a person should want, or this is,
No.
this
No,
is
there
what's
isn't.
there. It's really tuning in to being like, okay, but this is the direction I want to go in and not judging it.
Ooh, the not judging piece is big. And the capacity part too. Like we're so used to functioning full tilt.
Yeah.
Like there's that dialogue in society of the more I can do, the more I can be. Well, the more I can do, the more I am, actually.
The more
which,
valuable I am.
Yeah, and
And
that
so worth isn't a constant.
no, and that's really I think where things are kind of falling apart right now. Or the wheels are coming off that cart, and I am glad that they are because I think it's time that we acknowledge our humanity in all of this. It's been a very long journey of technology and technology helping us be more productive and productivity being a very key marker of success. When you take those factors away or they change in some way, like the external changing, you lose a job, you get sick and you can't, or injured and you can't do the things you're used to doing, like any external factor, then just kind of causes that life to disintegrate. It's like a house of cards.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take a lot if you're only looking at the external factors for that to be kind of blown over. So in my own life, when I got to that point where I realized, hey, I did all the things, this is supposed to be a happy life, and not feeling happy, I was so confused. Like I was just at a loss. I was depressed. I was so depressed. It was my mid 30s. I went on antidepressants again. I say again because I was on antidepressants in high school briefly. Um, I would say I struggled with episodes of depression, some anxiety through my whole life. And that was a turning point because I just felt in my body, in that inner knowing. So that's what I think we're really calling you to tune into.
Yeah.
It's hard because there's a lot of noise,
Yeah.
and a lot of layers to peel back, but it was so loud by that point in me, and it was coming up, and it was just this feeling of complete dissatisfaction, and there was a discord with who I knew, like it was there, like it was starting to come out, and but it's scary because it shakes your entire world. Like it shakes everything that you know. If you're like, wow, I did all this and I'm not happy, what's going to make me happy? And that's the first question I think we go to. What is going to make me happy? Well, it took a lot of years of looking inward at myself and like, what do I want? What is important to me? What matters to me? How do I want to feel in everyday life? I know it's not like this because these actions are kind of hollow, you know? So
No.
it's a journey.
Well, right. So maybe we're not making a great pitch for get to know yourself. It'll change your whole life, and it'll be awful.
It'll be great.
Well, it will be
It
great.
will be great. There's
But
a process.
I think the twin process that happens with knowing oneself and maybe having your world rocked is also learning a lot around self-regulation.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
it's the self-regulation, that's the part that keeps the internal structure a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
stable when there's all this noise both inside and outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like one of the main things that I think about in terms of trying to like build that like the skills of self-regulation are, and I'm not trying to get all woo-woo, but mindfulness practices.
Oh, yeah. Mindfulness. Okay. Let's just. I get so miffed when people are like, mindfulness is woo woo. It is not. Your brain is connected to the rest of your body, it's connected to your nervous
Mine's
system.
not. No.
It is connected. So, you know, when we talk about mental health, we're not only talking about mental health insofar as the struggles. What does mental health look like when we're mentally thriving?
Yeah.
You know, and that is the beautiful thing that I've discovered is, holy cow, as hard as some of those things are, you know, depression. I got diagnosed with ADHD as a 44-year-old woman. Like, holy cow, newsflash, that was also life.
Surprise.
Yeah, shed some light on previous things, but
Yeah.
but yeah, like I forgot where I was going.
Well,
I
don't know where you were going with this. You were talking about mindfulness.
Oh, the woo.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, the thriving, the mental thriving.
Yes.
Clearly my memory is not thriving, but it's equally important to talk about in that context. I think it's been amazing that mental health has had the publicity, for lack of like awareness. Like there's been that education piece. But how then can we use the power of that mind that we have? There is so much untapped potential and ability for us to change our own narrative, our own direction, our own definition of what's important, how we feel. It's such a key piece of self-regulation that I've found has been really great.
Yeah, and I find kind of one of the main principles of mindfulness is really just trying to stay in the very present moment and being aware of, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what's going on, so that then you can do something about it. And so, I think one of the benefits of being able to stay in the present moment is a lot of times anxiety is this weird time travel where we either project ourselves into this unknown future that we will think is terrible, or we do the time travel back to the past that maybe wasn't so good and we live there instead of living in the very present moment, which, if you're washing a dish, feel the water, feel the soap.
Yes. Connecting through your body, the senses.
Yes. And that maybe will help this chatter quiet down of all the worry and the rumination. that's one way to kind of try to regulate instead of living in the problem and living like, oh my God,
Totally.
it's going to be so terrible. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to, before I got disability insurance, being self-employed, the winters in Ottawa are not great. And I was living downtown. I would walk everywhere. And on icy days, there were times in the post-divorce era where I was so stressed about money. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to slip. I'm going to fall down. I'm going to hit my head. And then I won't be able to work. And then I'm going to be homeless. And I'll never get to see my kids again. Like, it was like that fast.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that hasn't crossed my mind.
But then I got disability insurance, and now, like, there was a place I lived with my kids that was up on the fourth floor in a building with no elevators, and we'd be like getting ready to leave for the day and walking down the stairs, and the kids would be like, "How much money do we get if we push you down the stairs, Dad?"
They're so kind.
Well,
They're so
I
cute.
love them. They're funny. But so, yeah,
This
try not to
regulating.
catastrophize, and one way to do that is to try to stay in the very present moment and not live these alternate realities.
Well, that's it. Being mindful doesn't mean not having thoughts.
No,
Like you can't stop the thoughts.
no.
But one person that I follow mentioned you can almost be like, I wonder what the next thought is going to be.
Mm.
Kind of removes yourself from that process. But the reason it's important is it also, that practice of kind of bringing yourself into the present and then using your senses to kind of ground you. So that's like somatic
Yep.
practices can help with that. And it helps to regulate your nervous system. It takes you out of your brain, which is fight or flight, which is what anxiety is, but it's around something that you can't solve in the immediate moment, but your mind, your limbic brain doesn't know the difference between an immediate threat and a
Future.
future forecasting threat. So that's a big thing too. Like for me, that awareness that what I'm feeling in my body is my body's reaction to what it believes is the truth,
Yes.
but it isn't. And that is a game changer for me. In those moments where I'm feeling almost like it's survival, like it's life or death sometimes.
Yeah.
The anxiety gets so like tight and my chest gets tight. And then I'm like, okay, my body doesn't know that I'm reacting to something that my mind is worried about. It's just reacting how we're programmed, our biological programming is showing us to do. So that's why interrupting that cycle and grounding into the moment, whether it's breathing, you can sit and do breathing in a room and just look around and be aware of your surroundings. Like, what is the texture of the wall? What is the artwork on the wall? What is like you're bringing your mind to where you are? How does it feel to sit in this chair? How do my legs feel? How does and it just kind of interrupts that. I forget what it's called, but Martha Beck has an amazing book called Beyond Anxiety. It's a new book by her. Highly, highly recommend reading it or listening to it. I'm a fan of listening. And she's the one that narrates it.
Oh, nice.
She's super funny. But she really breaks this down in a really manageable way. And yeah, you can just, sometimes you need that mind over matter to battle that side of your mind that wants to go into what she calls a defense cascade.
Ugh. Ugh.
Right?
No thanks.
Sounds freaking scary. But we've all been there. And that catastrophizing, that's it. And so yeah, there's somatic practices. There's being active, like if you go to the gym or go for a walk. Oh my God, doctors are now prescribing nature
Yeah.
as a prescription for helping with anxiety, and it's because it freaking works.
Well, I think of it, and I don't know if I've said it on the pod before, but I talk about it as the Holy Trinity: diet, rest, exercise. Like these are ways that we can have a chemical impact on our system that helps us out. If you're paying attention to what you're consuming, if you're paying attention to making sure you're moving around, if you're
Yeah.
making sure that you're getting rest, which
Yeah.
like a lot of people are like, what's rest?
I know. Like, let's not do the whole I'm gonna go to work even though I'm sick. Like, I'm over that. That's so 2000s, okay? So
Yes.
2000s masculine energy. Let's just call it what it is. Masculine or feminine, like it doesn't matter. I think
Well,
those
but I mean,
are
it's like
it's
that
not a gender
grit
thing.
over grind that I
Yeah.
think that we do associate with like the tough guy.
Mm.
Nothing bugs me.
No, and that, you have to put on this mask of like I'm okay. I can power through. It just
On that note,
yes.
something I'm so excited about. You just tipped it off in my mind. So I'm an Islander. I'm from PEI. That's where I grew up. And yesterday, the conservative premier of Prince Edward Island resigned. And
Oh, I did not hear about
yeah,
that.
and in his press conference, he talked about it in terms of, you know what, I see what's coming down the road in the next 4 years with all this, like tariffs and all this stuff. I don't have it. I'm not your guy. Like during,
Unreal.
well, right, a middle-aged man of a certain
I
age
love
and a
it.
certain political stripe was able to say, I've been through two major hurricanes, the pandemic, like all of this has been really hard. There were days I could not get out
Wow.
of bed. He actually said there are days I could not get out of bed. And I
Unreal.
just, like, I'm never really going to fangirl over a conservative politician,
Ditto.
but Dennis King, you do not know how important that was for boys and men to
Oh
hear.
my
I hope
God. I
it
have
gets,
chills.
well, I hope it gets picked up in the media more. I am certainly going to be talking about it.
Well, let's make sure we tag him
Yes,
in
we
this
should.
because you know what? Like, we are missing that kind of leadership if we're going to look at the turmoil that we're in right now. I'm starting to have nightmares.
Yeah.
Like
That's
it's
stressful.
it is weird. But I really love that. I love and that goes to your point about capacity.
Right? And like he was able to say, I can't. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm pie in the sky that everyone is receiving this with good reception, but it was like music to my ears. So, and a new premier is being sworn in today. Um, and so also, if any of my island friends are listening, give Dennis King a hug for me. Let him know that at least somebody far away thinks he's doing something really great.
I
Like it
love
really,
that.
I'm quite moved that he was able to do it because I think of what it does for boys and men everywhere if they know about this. That
Yeah.
you can still be a good leader and say, I have to tap out. This is too hard. Like that isn't
Yeah.
about, feelings happen. It's not that he's weak. It's not that he's a loser. Like, I probably don't agree with him on a lot of things. But feelings happen. Life is hard. And sometimes we hit our limits. And so instead of continuing to try to force himself into total
Yeah.
disintegration, he's like, you know what? I'm going to look after me. Like
Yeah.
this impacts me and it impacts my family. I love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you know, it affects obviously how he's aware of how he wants to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, that was vulnerability. Like that's
Yeah.
masterclass on vulnerability. Had to do it in a press conference. He could have made any kind of story up to resign.
Oh,
He didn't
totally.
have to go with the truth.
He didn't have to do a press conference. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he could have just sent out a memo.
Yeah.
Like, and
Due to personal reasons. Yeah.
yeah, due to personal reasons. Like, which if that's how you want to play it, that's fine too. But I just, my heart
Wow.
beats fast over that stuff.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I had
Yeah.
no idea that happened yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a news junkie. And
I am
Islander.
too, but I clearly was not paying attention to the news yesterday. The only thing I heard about the news yesterday was about the hockey game
Yes,
and
the
the
hockey
preface, all the stuff leading up to the hockey game, which
Yeah.
we did win, which I'll just leave it there. But you mentioned about being vulnerable and like how things are knowing your capacity, knowing your limits, and things that come up that are surprises and they're good. And even if they're good, they can have some stuff to them.
Yeah.
There's some juiciness that you have to kind of deal with. And
Well, on that note,
yes.
Burns and Rahe were these two psychologists in the 1960s, and they came up with this stress index. And, so people fill out this checklist, like, have these life events happened to you in the last 12 months? And each life event gets a number associated, number of
Yeah.
stress points. So like I think number one is like death of a spouse. Number two is death of a parent. But like somewhere I think three or four, it's like getting married. I think around six or seven, it's getting a promotion at work. Like even good things can cause stress.
Yeah. And turmoil.
Yeah.
And so, how do you navigate that internally? And it is having that good, well, tools to help you kind of, you know, reconnect with yourself and not spin out of control.
Well, and connect with other people.
Yeah.
Like I think that's another big self-regulation thing. It's not that we're making other people do our work for us, but when we're connected, if, you know, and it's nice to have light connections, it's nice to have fun connections, but when things are really hard, if you can really connect with someone who you know loves you and who won't judge you,
Yeah.
that is gold.
Well, I'm going to be completely vulnerable. I did that today when I came in here. I came in and I was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff bubbling up. If I don't get this off my chest and just out, I don't have it needs out.
Yeah.
I just needed to get it out.
Yeah.
And you listened.
Yeah.
You didn't solve my problems.
No.
You empathized. And I felt so good just being like, bleh. You know?
And you're not alone in it anymore.
Yeah.
So you're not, all that energy spending on trying to keep it hidden, that gets freed up to
Yeah.
do other things that are much more important.
Talk about opening up capacity.
Yeah.
That I honestly, and so it doesn't have to be talking to somebody. It could also be journaling. Although,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, having that connection, like we talked about in our community episode,
Yeah.
like the importance of community, episode 3. You know, it's nice to have that that space with somebody, that shared space. We all have an energetic field.
Yeah.
It's important, and it's not woo. It's
No.
real. And you know, if you doubt that we have the energetic impact on each other that we do, think about when you have to be around somebody that you're not a fan of. You
Yeah.
feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Think about
They probably do too.
they probably do too. Think about, though, on a grand scale, like the hockey game last night, or a concert where we all have that unifying moment
Yeah.
of togetherness. Like, that's what we're talking about when we talk about the benefit of being in close proximity to another person. But journaling is also a really, really helpful way. I use it all the time just to get it out.
The way I think about journaling, and also it's kind of like in with mindfulness, is that if we're paying attention to our thoughts, right? Because like talk therapy or journaling, the similar thing is that you have to organize your thoughts to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we can have 5 to 9 thoughts at once. Be sure we're working our garbage out when it's just tumble, tumble, tumble. But if you're journaling, you know, you can only write one letter at a time or one word at a time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so it starts to help you order. And then sometimes when you're ordering, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't belong to me. That's not mine.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, is that how I really feel? I think that is how I really feel.
Yeah.
Like I remember, this isn't a journaling, but there was a season in my life that was particularly busy, and I felt really like I had too much going. Like I had all these plates spinning, you know, the plate spinners or whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, I felt, and so I was like having a poor me in my kitchen moment as I was like trying to make dinner quickly for my kids. And I thought about, okay, you're overwhelmed, like you're too busy, all this stuff. What is it that you can put down? And so the story was a lot about you're overwhelmed, you're too busy, it's too much, you can't do it. And then when I thought about all the different plates that I had on the go, I realized they were all very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to show up less for my kids. I don't want to show up less for my friends. I don't, like, I love my career. You know, at the time my dad was sick in another province, but you know, he didn't have anyone else to care for him. It was important that I was involved. And when I started to think about, you know, where I could maybe slow down a little, there was no plate that I was actually interested in dropping. There wasn't anything
Yeah.
I was doing that I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. And that realization, when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm not too busy. I'm not overwhelmed. Like, there's a lot on the go, but this is all stuff I picked.
Well, and stuff that is you're getting something out of too. It's filling
Yes.
your cup too, right? It's not
Yes.
just the giving. It's
Yeah.
so it was in integrity with what mattered to you.
Well, right. Like, I mean, even with my friendships, it's, it's not that they're all one-sided, right? Like, I get a
Yeah.
lot out of the people in my life outside of here so that I can give to people inside of here. Um, but being able to slow down and look at the thoughts and see what's true
Mm,
and what's not, that can really help build that inner stability. Because after that
totally.
point, I was like, oh, okay, well, you probably need to maybe sleep a little more, but like,
Yeah.
shut your
Yeah.
face. Like, you actually like all these things.
Yeah.
Like
It's pretty
there was
exciting.
nothing that I didn't like.
So when you did that, I'm going to put my coach hat on right now.
Ooh.
I have a coaching sort of question.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think was, where do you think that story came from about it being too much and you're overwhelmed?
I think for the longest time, it was not until after my father died that the feeling went away. But I have lived with a profound sense of loneliness a lot of my
Mm,
life. And I was feeling kind of alone in my struggles.
okay.
And so when that little button gets set off in me, this is everything's too much. I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overloaded.
Oh.
There aren't enough people. And then as I go through it, I'm like, oh, but my kids. Oh, but my very good friends. Like, oh,
Mm,
like it just, the story, all the plates are littered with people for me. And it helped me realize that I wasn't alone in the battle and that I
mm-hmm.
can ask for help and that people, I think in my 20s, I didn't think that people would want to help me. But by the time I got into my 40s, I guess it was maybe late 30s then, um, I knew that I could ask for help and people would show up.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
It's
so
beautiful.
again, why community is important. Because
Mm-hmm.
it is about being able to take a withdrawal from that bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, so it was one less thing that I had to do. Like it was easier to self-regulate in the recognition of, oh, there are other people.
I love that. And I love that you were able to see where it came from. It came from a part of you that was wounded. Like
Yeah,
it was, a part of you that at some point in your life that need wasn't filled. And I
yeah,
think a lot of times, especially when life gets busy or stressful and we're jostled around or we have these unexpected ups and downs and sideways, those versions come out, those triggered versions, because they're the ones that have always been there to kind of figure out a coping strategy. But if you can take a step back like you did and think, why am I reacting like this? What story is behind my feeling like this? Like the same thing with, why am I uncomfortable
yeah.
with this
Vote Nancy.
nominee? Right. So it's making me think. It's really giving me time to reflect and be like, what is this about actually? I'm a firm believer in anything that comes up in life is an opportunity to learn more about yourself, but not only to learn more and be like, oh, okay, now that's nice to know. It's it allows evolution. It's like, now I know that. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to use this to show up better next time for myself? Like, is there a way that could be better next time? Is there something that I need? Is there, like those types of questions? Like, it's all, I just think every opportunity is a learning opportunity to make your life better in some way.
I you just said two things that I really want to respond
Okay.
to. um, like one, those less like every opportunity to learn. It's like it's not like you're reading a novel all the time. Sometimes the things that you learn are like, oh right, I knew that, which I find
Yes.
very helpful. That it's not,
Yeah.
like that. It's like, oh right, that affirms something I knew about myself. That there's learning in that too.
Hmm.
The use of the word better. I don't know what it is about the last 6 months, but every time I hear someone say the word better, in my mind, I'm like, different. Eh.
You know what? I like that.
And
Different.
yeah, I don't know why. And it's showing up a lot in my sessions with people, but
Interesting.
like, because everyone wants to get better and better. And I think, what if, Like, what if you're already at the top tier,
I love that.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you could just do it differently
Yeah.
another time, and
Yeah.
it would, it might produce a different result. But this rank ordering of, better, best, perfect, whatever, like, that's the thing that I find better. We can always do
I
better.
think that's a good point.
Like, it reminds me of being in
Yeah.
university. There was always
Ugh.
more reading you could do. There was always like extra. I never felt like I could stop. I remember like dissolving into tears one semester because I had accidentally overslept. I had budgeted 3 hours of sleep and I slept 3.5 hours
shoot.
because I was exhausted. And then I woke up, I lost this half hour. Like, I mean, it was
Yeah.
ridiculous. And so, but it was about trying to be better all the time. And
Yeah.
like, life is not like an infinite chart where you go up. Like,
No,
so like, let's hang out in a zone.
that's so valid. So let me rephrase. Because you do point something out that's subtle. It's a nuanced part of it. So when I said better in that context, I think what I was saying was, I feel more myself. I feel more like I know myself. I feel more in touch. This has allowed me to understand and connect with who I am in a more honest, truthful, real level.
I love it.
So better is not hierarchical when in my mind. And so I'm so glad you pointed it out, because I hate that too. I don't like the comparisons. I don't like that there's some pinnacle we're going to get to. I think we already are that whole, complete person. We are who we are. But how can we do it differently so that we feel that sense of, like, man, I am so happy I just learned that about myself so I can feel good.
Well, because what you're talking about is processing, right?
Yes.
Like, you're processing your experience. So you're like, oh, this is how I connect back. This is why this bugs me in particular. And processing is another one of those things that helps with inner stability, because you know what's in there as opposed to you're afraid of what's in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, that was process.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been alluding to when I say, like, through the years, that the work I've done on myself, it's been processing.
Yeah.
That's all it's been. It's looking at those pieces and how can I take that information and become a truer, more authentic, real version of myself.
Because what that's doing,
Yeah.
right, is it's not changing.
No,
It's acceptance over avoidance.
it totally is acceptance.
Yeah.
And really, it's been uncovering what's already there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not becoming a different person.
Yeah. No, you're becoming more you,
Yeah.
which is, and this is the lovely thing. We pretend that adolescence is really the only time that people change and grow, but that's the lie until you're dead.
Oh my
there's
God.
more to accept, there's more to understand, there's, you're moving through different developmental stages. So the things,
Yeah.
even the things that are important to you at 20, some of them might still be at 60, but some of them ain't going to be the same.
No, and I think maybe the qualities and the values can linger longer, but it's like, how are we expressing that?
Yeah.
The expression of those things in life with how we choose to show up, how we choose to interact with others, how we respond to these, the ups and downs and all things.
The sideways.
Yeah, because, man.
Well, because that's the other thing. I mean, I'm often saying to people, if you don't really work on, like, if you try to avoid, or if you try to deny, or if you try to suppress, eventually that stuff comes out sideways in a way you didn't expect, in a way you didn't want, which sometimes can have devastating consequences.
Well, yeah, physiologically too.
Physiologically, but even just that's when we start to act out of character.
Yeah.
Right? Like that if you're not going to listen to your body, if you're not going to pay attention to all the things, at some point something will happen that says
it catches up with you.
Right? Like,
oh yeah.
And then you're forced to pay attention in a way you didn't want to.
That is what we call a rock bottom.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds so dire, but it isn't.
No.
It's it is just a point where you really have to have some honest conversations with yourself and process. And that's not something, you need to do by yourself.
No, not
Like
at
there's
all.
therapy, there's so many different modalities that can help with that, and so many different ways to access that. Sometimes you can't access that until you've regulated it in your body,
Yeah.
and so if
I hate
something
that so
doesn't
much.
work, yeah, if something doesn't work the first time, don't give up and be like, I'm a lost cause. Nobody's a
No,
lost cause.
no.
There's so many different ways to go about it, but our body, it has a job, and its job is self-preservation and survival. And when we are, in constant denial of the feelings and not processing, and it catches up to us, chances are there's a lot of nervous system stuff going on too that needs
Yeah.
regulating. And until your body feels safe, your mind and your heart are not going to open up.
No.
So, yeah. It sounds ominous, but it's a beautiful process.
Well, and I think something too about um, uh, maybe it's staying in the moment. I'm not quite sure, but the recognition that everything changes. Like
Yeah.
good stuff changes.
Yeah.
So does the bad stuff,
Yeah.
right? So like any one set of moments that is really difficult, it will not endure the rest of your life. It will move
No.
off.
No.
You will get a reprieve. So maybe it's worth, okay, in this moment, I'm going to dig in and see what's in there.
Well, and I think knowing that, um, what is the word? It's not uncertainty. There's a word for it. I'll come back to it.
Ambivalence?
No, just the constant change. There's a word for constant change. I can't think of it.
Well,
Anyway,
knowing constant change.
knowing that
Unpredictability?
that's a reality, the only certainty that you have, therefore, is yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of came up with this like metaphor, or this visual metaphor, I guess. You've got like a sailboat, and the sailboat has it's a keel, I believe, the big thing that goes under the water that you can't see that keeps the boat
Okay.
upright.
Sure.
And you're the sailboat, and the deeper your keel is, the more stable it will be, the more upright you can remain. You may still find yourself in one hell of a storm,
Yeah.
but having that will help keep you upright. It doesn't mean it's going to be smooth sailing.
That was like a dad joke. Well done.
Yeah, but that is what I really, think like, okay, I have to have my being, my core, my values, my qualities that I value, and also knowing what do I want to experience in my life. Like, is it calm? Is it excitement? Is it constant moving? Like, what feels good to me? Not what I'm used to.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yes.
What actually would serve me? And how then can I develop the awareness around how to cultivate that? And what do I have to say no to? Maybe caffeine in the morning makes me just too darn anxious, and
Yeah.
then it just sets my day off on the wrong foot. Like, it can be that simple.
But the thing that I like so much about the deeper your keel, it doesn't mean the storm isn't going to happen,
Exactly.
right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to have the feels. It doesn't mean that it won't be hard sometimes. But having that deeper inner awareness makes it easier to weather the storms, and it makes it easier on the sunny days too.
Oh,
Because
hell yeah.
I think oftentimes people are looking for like, how do I get rid of the feels? And
No,
Sorry.
avoiding
Yeah.
is going to make them last longer.
Yeah.
Just a little tip.
yeah,
Once you get used to kind of sinking into that discomfort of having those feelings or worries or anxiousness, or all of it is rooted down to there's a kernel
Yeah.
under all of those layers of a story you're telling yourself that's
yes.
rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like, if we parse all of our human emotions down to their very, very, very core, It's love and fear.
Hmm.
And so kind of being brave enough to peel back the layers and see where we're coming from, and fear, unfortunately, because of how our society has been created, has been the de facto operating system, and it really sucks. So
That's a good one.
I feel like we're really, like, that is my goal when I say I want to help people every day. Like, I want people to move away from that fear and what holds them in that space, the beliefs around it. And that's the work that you do as well. Like, you're helping people reconnect. We're helping people reconnect because in our own lives, amid the turmoil and the unpredictability and the surprises, good and bad, being able to come back to that place is so important. I I am personally going through a very significant period of transformation for myself, and it includes a massive change to my living situation. And I'm a Taurus. I don't know if
Same.
anybody follows astrology. I do. It's not woo. I'm just saying that. But no, I am a very grounded person. It's an earth sign. I like my things. I like my comfort. I like stability. Stability is my middle name, despite how I've lived. And I think that's actually where I felt so much discord, is because I wasn't living
Yeah.
in a way that created that stability for me. And for so long, stability has meant a house and a home and exactly this, and this. And for me, that's changing. Like, what that looks like is changing. And it's not, it's different.
Yes.
It's not worse. It's not better. It's different. And so I know, though, if this was happening at a different point in my life, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even last year, it would have destroyed me. But because I feel like I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I know my life is made up of more than what is happening on the outside. It's made up of my relationships and my choices and how I show up. I am in a place now where I am navigating it. My sailboat is upright.
Yes.
It may not be the calmest of waters we're navigating at this point. The wind may keep changing direction, but and I think it's important for me to share that because, like, I have this nomination, yay, but I'm also going through some stuff. Like, it doesn't mean life is perfect. It doesn't mean life is broken either, right? And so you never know what's going on. You never know what's coming. So being able to connect with that self and peel back the layers and really understand the stories you're telling yourself are just so instrumental in creating that sense of inner stability.
And I'm so glad to be on the boat with you in this.
Thank
Like,
you. It's a
it's
fun
good.
boat. It's weird.
It is a fun boat.
It could be a party boat.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Someday.
we'll get.
But probably we should wrap up there for
Yeah.
today. And so really, we hope that we've left you with some nuggets around how to self-regulate or how to, get that inner stability going when you're sailing on some rocky shores.
Yeah. Yeah. And reach out. I mean, we're here talking, but we would love to know what you guys think of what we're saying. What resonates? Share some of your own anecdotes of what you've worked through, and it's a two-way street. So
For sure.
yeah.
So we're going to go off and be with some hearts that beat. Look after yourselves and each other today.
Have a great week and go make some magic. Bye.
Ciao.
Hey, it's Nancy. I just want to take a moment to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't already, don't forget you can follow the show and will be automatically notified of episodes as they are released so you don't miss any. someone you think might benefit from this conversation. And of course, we want to hear from you. Let us know how we are doing. The show can be reached by emailing goldgoesfirst@gmail.com or follow on Instagram and Facebook. You can check the show notes for those accounts. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. Lastly, please click on 5 stars to show your support so we can keep going. It's a small gesture,